go ahead and get in a left neutral bow. If I wanted to get closer to you but maintain my stance, one of the options that I have is called a step through. Now, when we're stepping through, you're going to notice that your body kind of wants to bind up on itself. So you're going to have to let it unbind and unwind itself. We're going to be pivoting on the balls of our feet to maybe the middle of our feet. Okay, don't get too hung up into that. Just let your feet do what they need to do to get back into your neutral bow, regardless of the side. So, to begin a forward step through, I would start pivoting my front foot, let's say, or a prefix maybe. Then I'd bring this leg forward, okay? Just kind of step off at an angle. Then I'd come back to here with my passive guard. So that was a forward step through. Makes sense? If I'm in a right neutral bow, I can do the same thing. I can start turning that lead foot, bring this back foot up, kind of come off to the side. Now I'm in a left neutral bow. You notice that my feet, when I'm making those steps, I'm not stepping up to 12. I'm actually kind of stepping up to maybe 11, 11:30, or 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock. Okay, that's going to give me the best chance of keeping my heel-toe alignment. Now, if I screw it up, don't worry about it. Just make your minor adjustments as needed. Okay, so again, forward step through. And then if I'm going to go backwards, now the feet are going to be kind of turning simultaneously, okay? As I start stepping back, this is where I want to end up. If I do a stance change, now if I'm going to go backwards, I can start my hips. Then when you're done moving, just check your heel to toe line. Okay, so if your big toe is about 1.5 inches off the line and the heel is on the line, you're probably going to be okay. All right, again, make the minor adjustments if you notice you either made a mistake or if the terrain kind of messed you up. You have what? A forward step through and a rear step through. You're going to be pivoting on the balls of your feet. Don't worry if you want to break it down by the numbers very specifically and independently. You can go 1, 2, 3, and then you will just smooth that out the more repetitions you get. Okay, so I could go 1, 2, then if I lose my balance, I could stop, get myself back together, step back, and 3. So don't worry about looking great right away. All we want to get ourselves in the habit of is being able to move in an efficient manner and a little bit more intentionally as opposed to the primal movements and the grappling movements and maybe the basketball type movement that we were talking about back in self-preservations. Now let's look at a couple of different shuffles. Shuffles allow me, again, to move forward or away from an attacker, but this time I'm going to do it in little shorter steps, okay? Kind of creep up, and I'm not going to be changing my base, okay? So, or my lead situation. With the step throughs, you're always changing the side of your lead. Here, everything's going to stay the same. So if I start off in a right neutral bow passive stance, and I want to do something called a step drag. So as I come down, right, I'm going to step and drag. Step and drag. Step and drag. But if I wanted to go backwards, step, drag. Step, drag. Step, drag. Okay. Excuse me, change sides. step, drag, step, drag. Or if I want to go backwards, step, drag, step, drag. We use these things to see how our opponent is going to react. Yes, the physical aspect is decreasing distance or increasing distance from the threat. But if you're not exploding into that person, normally you're using a shuffle to kind of get them to flinch, redirect their attention down to an area where you want them to look and not where the attack is going to be coming from. If we're going to do a drag step, it's going to be very similar, just initiated with the opposite foot. So here, I'm going to take my drag and then step. Now from here, you can probably see I could add a little bit more power to the movement. Drag, and then I start loading up that back foot for the push. Drag, step, drag, step. Okay, now if I want to go backwards, drag, step, drag, step. Let's say you're in a neutral bow. You'll start to combine a push and a drag. Push drags can be done with either foot initiating the push as well. Okay? And the push drags are probably the quickest way to move to and from a bad guy, while the drag step and step drag can be used kind of like feinting foot maneuvers. You're trying to get the person that you're competing with or the attacker, trying to bring their attention down to your feet to set up a different type of escape or defense. Now, if I were to stay on the same side and mix those two up, it might look like something like this. I'm going to do a drag step and then a step drag. Okay, so I go drag, step, step, drag. Makes sense? Drag, step, step, drag. So it can get kind of confusing. That's why on the audio coach, I'm going to be calling out different commands, which will hopefully get you used to putting the auditory with the physical and moving forward from there. Now let's go over some parries, upper body stuff. Go ahead and put yourself in a training horse. Okay, hands are going to be open though. What we're going to do is pretend that there's a triangle lying horizontally. I'm the king of sound effects in training. Have you not noticed that? So, triangle, the base of the triangle, the corners are over here by your shoulders, and it's going to be coming out right here, right around your solar plex area. Okay, and with the parries, what we're trying to do differently than when we were blocking is we're going to be riding and redirecting the force instead of meeting and striking it like we were with our blocks. Parries are a lot more flinch friendly as well. I can probably block really cool and do some decent forms and look really neat in a kata tournament, but once a little bit of fear hits me and pressure and surprise, I'm human, so I'm going to flinch. Okay. So we already learned our jamming and spears, correct? And the wedges and frames earlier. Now we're trying to refine our flinches and learn how to parry. So that's why we are here today. Okay. So if I'm starting off, I'm going to do a right inward parry. All I'm going to do is bring my right hand up to right about the point of that triangle and bring it past my head. Okay. I'm going to be meeting the fist, the arm, whatever, with the meaty part of my hand. I want to keep my fingers out of this equation because you don't want to jam your fingers. Coach Brian has jammed his fingers. Not a good time for a very long time. All right. So This is going to be that redirecting force. Try to keep everything as small and into your conceptual box as possible. So that means elbows down. So bring it right back. Bring this back to home base. Left side up to the point of your triangle. Just past your melon. Bring it back. And this is as fast as you need to go. We are not trying to be Speedy Gonzalez today. Once we start adding footwork and foot maneuvers, and specifically body maneuvers, turning, riding, and things like that, these parries are awesome. Okay. If I want to do an outward parry, I could come out, right outward parry, to that same spot, but instead of going to the opposite side, I'm going to come back to the original side and hopefully redirect that bad fist or arm away from my melon. Again, with our turning and riding, it's going to be a lot easier to keep our elbow anchored. So a lot of times we might want to widen it out, especially depending on your katas or forms that you're doing. If you want to make them look better, what do? We just elongate the circles or widen things out a little bit to look cooler, right? But when you're training with your parries, for now, try to keep everything in close to your body. If we want to combine our parries, I could go for, let's say, a right inward, left outward. Right inward, left outward. Left inward, right outward. One more time, we'll do the combined. Nice and slow, right? Work these things slow. Take your time. Just get in as many slow repetitions as you can. Just like for those of you who are in firearms, right? What do they say? Slow, smooth. Smooth is fast, right? So that's kind of the thought process I bring to this stuff as well. Hello and welcome to this course. My name is Coach Brian and I will be your instructor on today's presentation of survival tactics, the 4 pillars. The first pillar is we need to stay escape focused. We have to remember that our life is more important than our social standing. So many of the serious injuries and the few deaths that I saw while working in a security capacity at nightclubs, casinos, could have been prevented so easily had the people involved been a little bit more mature. We have to remember that our life is more important than ego, property, or winning. Why would I say that? I have 3 different examples that unfortunately I had witnessed personally while working. Saw 2 gentlemen get into, first, a verbal altercation, which turned into a fist fight. As they were fist fighting, there was a moment in time when they kind of separated, and this guy slipped on, I think it was a napkin or some kind of wet napkin, hit his head on a curb, and died. Now, he didn't die right away. They called the ambulance, but a couple days later, he ended up passing away. That was completely preventable. What about life over property? This I didn't see personally. This was an article in the paper where they explained that a homeowner had gotten an alert on his phone from his security cameras, and it showed somebody trying to break into his car. So he immediately dropped his phone, ran outside, challenged the person. They got into a fight. Well, the guy had a buddy who came from out of nowhere, stabbed this guy in the back, punctured his lung, and he died. And the 2 bad guys got away. What you should do in that situation is as soon as you see someone breaking into your car, you don't run out there and challenge them. You call the police. You make sure that your security cameras stay recording and that they don't time out.
You become a great witness. Don't spook the people so they can run away. Take the actions necessary for the cops to effect an arrest. What about life over winning? Some of you may have been in our class recently where we showed a video of two teens fighting in a parking lot. And the one kid wins the fight, kind of starts bragging to his friends. And the kid that he beat up, one of his friends comes out of nowhere with a revolver and shoots the winner of the fight dead right there in the parking lot. Everybody runs off. So think about it. These three stories. The first story, the guy didn't want to seem like a pushover in front of his friends, so he starts fighting this guy, or he accepts the challenge. He slipped, fell, and hit his head. The next guy became so angry and offended that someone was trying to break into his car, he went out and confronted them, got himself stabbed. And then the third case, two teens fighting, one guy wins, and the loser has a friend of his out there in the group, pulls out a revolver and shoots the kid who won the fight. We have to use timing, psychology, and our life experience, which this course is now a part of, for you, the student. We have to use those things when deciding when to comply, fight, and escape. The second pillar is this: get and train with a weapon. Bad guys have them. You need to have them for self-defense purposes. What types of weapons are we talking about? Well, you have pepper sprays and pepper foams. You have impact weapons. You have knives. And you have handguns. Find a weapon that you are comfortable with, and that maybe you are going to train with all four of these things here. And you can decide which one feels the best for your physical makeup and your environmental concerns. Train with it, and then use your ability to stay aware and anticipate violence and then avoid it. So that way you never have to use these weapons. The third pillar is strike first if appropriate. So keep the targets simple. Think about the weapons of your own that we have discussed in previous classes. Then you need to destroy your attackers. Throat, eyes, and groin, and repeat. Just don't stop. If they picked you to be their victim today, you need to get it in your mindset that they screwed up. And the fourth pillar is to keep attacking. Don't hit and begin to laugh or look to your friends for validation. Don't stare at your handiwork. I've seen that. Don't freeze up. That happens. Attack that person until they aren't able to attack you anymore, or until you can escape yourself. This course is about survival. In under 10 minutes, we've talked about the physical tools and the mental mindset that you need. Your number one job is to be aware of, be able to anticipate, and most importantly, avoid violent encounters. Hello and welcome to this presentation on the 4 elements of having a survival mindset. My name is Coach Brian and I will be your instructor for the presentation. The first element is knowing the difference between having a will to survive and having the will to prepare to survive. This is very important because almost everyone, every human being has built into them a will to survive. But very few people have the will to prepare to survive. So, congratulations. If you're in this course and you're watching this video, you are one of the few. The desire to learn, understand, and avoid violent encounters is paramount in today's society. Now, if you're unable to avoid it and they do occur, we need to have the skills to manage and survive them. So we need to remember that. Now, the second element is to be able to employ a predator-prey reversal. Now, obviously, we all want to live a polite and calm life. You need to be slow to anger and quick to forgive. However, if someone brings a fight, if they bring an assault to you in your doorstep, or they attempt to kill, rape, or harm anyone in your family or you yourself, you have to be able to manage this encounter and survive. So, how do you do that? You use timing, psychology, your life experience, which is now made up of, or that includes, this course right here. You have to use those things when deciding when to turn the tables on your attacker. You need to fight back like a rabid animal. Win or lose, they need to know that they chose the wrong person. That brings us to the third element. We need to mentally rehearse worst case scenarios, and we need to rehearse them with us surviving the outcome. So, how will I manage and survive if I'm raped? How will I manage and survive if I'm carjacked? How will I manage and survive if I find myself in an active shooter incident? How will I manage and survive if being assaulted on a bus or in a subway station? And regardless of our gender, we need to answer these questions. And we need to use intelligence over ego when it comes to surviving. And I say that because a lot of guys will say, well, listen, no one's ever going to rape me. I carry a gun. I'll beat the hell out of them, or something of that nature. And what you have to understand is that men have been raped. If you were in law enforcement, if you're in corrections, you know this because there have been times when inmates have kidnapped and raped male staff. So again, we need to prepare for the worst case scenario. If it does happen, how will we manage and survive? And you have to decide right now that you will survive, both physically and emotionally. You have to use your head if you're carjacked. If somebody comes up to you with a gun and demands your car, you need to make some pretty intelligent decisions. Do you fight? Is that intelligent? Or do you hand over the keys and let the police handle the situation? The wrong decision can get you killed. What about an active shooter situation? Then when we look at the last one, how do we manage and survive if being assaulted on a bus or in a subway station? A lot of times, again, intelligence over ego says that these things start with some sort of verbal confrontation. If someone runs their mouth off a little bit at you, let them have it. It's not worth getting shot over. It's not worth getting stabbed over. It's not worth getting jumped by this individual's three friends that you didn't know he had in that same area. And let's say you do end up fighting this person. If you win, it's not worth going to jail for. Mutual combat does not allow you the ability to use self-defense as a claim. So you have to be intelligent. The fourth element is psychological positioning, doing what's best for you. If things don't work out in my favor, it's not my fault. Of course, that takes into effect that you weren't part of the problem. You didn't start the fight. You didn't escalate the situation. You used intelligence and you were trying to calm things down. But if two guys roll up on you and your family with a shotgun and they steal your car, that shouldn't be something that hurts your ego if you let them take the car. Your job is to protect yourself and your family, not the property. If you get kidnapped and raped, you need to understand that it's the fault of the attacker, bottom line. Even if you decide that, well, I should have done this differently, I could have done that differently, that's fine. You can Monday morning quarterback yourself, if needed, to not find yourself in that position again. But do that as a matter of intelligence and strategy and not victim blaming yourself. Back when I was in the military, I was assigned as staff to a correctional facility, and I went to a seminar once. It was actually a civilian seminar, and they made us run through a drill. What would you do if there was a riot, the prison was taken over, and you were sexually assaulted? And they get you to the point where you're deciding if it happens, it happens. I'm going to minimize the damage that I take, do whatever it takes to survive the incident, and then I can get my retribution later. I mean, you really have to go to that level because you're going to be angry. You might feel fearful, and there's going to be a whole slew of emotions that come along with that situation. But at the end of the day, remember, minimize damage to yourself, survive it, and then when you've survived and escaped, you can decide what to do from that point on. And however it ends, you need to tell yourself, I did my best using what I know with the environment I found myself in. In life, we have great experiences, and there's going to be some terrible experiences mixed in. We have to understand that up front and always be flexible enough to survive the tougher times in life.